Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Employee to Boss podcast. I'm your host, Hailey Hayhurst. Today I'm speaking with another Hailey. Her name is Hailey Rowe, and she is a marketing and sales coach as well as a LinkedIn lead generation service provider. Hailey and I connected on Facebook, and I really loved her marketing. She also has a podcast, and she talks a lot about how to make sure you're well in your business, making enough money, you're generating enough leads, but you're also working on the mental health aspect as well. A lot of entrepreneurs feel like they're not enough, even though they're working 40, 50, 60 hours a week, working all the time. And I really think that's a big part of entrepreneurship that people don't talk about. So Hailey helps online entrepreneurs, especially in the health and life coaching industries, get clients consistently, develop their no-brainer offers, and grow their income and impact. So during this episode, she shares her F.A.S.T framework, F.A.S.T framework. She also shares some marketing, business, and podcasting tips. Her podcast is called the Health Coach Nation podcast, and she also has a Health Coach Nation Facebook group. She's been named one of the top 25 coaches in Chicago and one of the top 6 business podcasts for health coaches. So she started her business really in 2010, so she's been listening for a while, and she says that her philosophy is you can have an amazing service and impact to make, but without a strong mindset, sales and marketing plan, your business will remain a hobby. So check out the show notes. She has tons of links, including a link to her free Overwhelm Masterclass, links to her podcast, and all of her social media. So let's get right into this episode with Hailey Rowe. Hey, Hailey. Thanks so much for joining me on the Employee to Boss podcast today.
Thank you. And I love your name, Hailey.
I know, twins. I love it. There's so
Yeah.
many different ways to spell Hailey. I always, whenever I go to Starbucks, they're never going to get my name right. But
Oh, yeah. Always.
so many options. So I am super excited for this conversation today. If you wanted to start off by telling us about yourself and your business, the audience would love to learn more about you.
Yeah, definitely. So I am a marketing and sales coach and strategist for online entrepreneurs. I work with a lot of coaches, specifically in the health coaching, life coaching, mindset coaching space. And I also do LinkedIn lead generation services to help people book more calls with their potential clients. So I started back in 2010, I got my first certification. So very eager beaver to learn, always into, personal development, and thought I might like business, but I didn't know what I wanted my life to look like at that time. And so I ended up getting my bachelor's in entrepreneurship and loved it. But then I was like, you know what? I'm not ready to do my own thing. And I think a lot of people have that as a belief about themselves. They never feel ready to step into entrepreneurship. So I got a job working in the startup world. And I did that for a couple of years for different startups and worked in business development and marketing. And I loved it because it was a crash course in having to do things that I've never done before and wear many hats. And you're always in a fast-paced environment. You never know what they're going to throw at you. So I learned a lot about marketing and sales and all that. And then in 2017, one of the companies that I worked for was dealing with a lot of delays and challenges. And I had just been hinted that I was like going to get a promotion. I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Signed a 1-year lease to stay in the place where I was working. And then in one day, everybody got let go on a call. And I realized, okay, what I thought was so safe and what I thought was going to be my path didn't end up working out. And I knew I wanted to have my own business. I just always was putting off like, I'm not ready. And so that was my sign to be like, you know what? I might as well. Nothing is safe. So I might as well do what I want to do. So that's when I started coaching in business development and marketing and all that kind of stuff, and been doing it ever since.
I love that. Yeah. That feeling of nothing is safe. I had that too when I got laid off of my job at the beginning of the pandemic. And I was like, this is what we've been taught all through school. Like I had just graduated. going into the corporate world was like the only thing I knew how to do. And so when that wasn't safe anymore, it was kind of this moment of what the heck even is happening? Like, how do we
Yeah.
even do any of this? And so that's a big point right there. When you decided to actually start your own business, what are some of the steps that you took? Because I know you went, from being unemployed, just like laid off, to taking like this massive step of starting your business and getting clients.
Yeah, so there was a couple things, and I've now looking back, I've developed a framework about this because I feel like so many entrepreneurs feel directionless when they're starting out, and it's a whole new skill. First of all, it's a new skill to learn how to sell and market something if you've never done that before. And second of all, it's a whole new skill to learn how to manage yourself if you've always had a job where you're being told your responsibilities and what you need to do and that kind of thing. So I developed a FAST framework, and it stands for followers, action, sales, time management, and transformation. And it kind of like, now looking back, was the order that I went. So what I did first was I got clear on who did I want to serve and who did I feel most comfortable serving, who could I feel like I could get results for. And I started talking to those people, and I just started asking them, what problems are you having? What would you, hire a coach for? What problems would you pay to solve? What dreams would you pay to get? And I got some good feedback, and I started to do a test program with them, and get some experience and turn around with the results. And then I started to build case studies and all that kind of stuff. So really, it started with who can I help, and then what do I want to help them with, and getting that feedback from the market was really, really helpful. And I noticed too, like, the people who are naturally gravitating towards me are asking me questions. So if you're new, like, pay attention to what's a talent you have that seems so natural that other people are like, how do you do that? But you're like, oh my God, it's so obvious. Like, that's the kind of stuff you probably want to start picking as your business focus, right? And then just diving deeper into what are other people's challenges with that. So that was a big part of it. And then I just started to learn that in order to have a business, you got to, number one, be bringing in new traffic and followers. And I don't mean you need to have a huge audience or be Kim Kardashian or be an influencer, but I do think a lot of times we're so focused on posting and doing things that maybe don't move the needle that much, as opposed to having a way to be bringing in new traffic. So that's really important. And I do recommend starting with organic traffic. Like, I didn't buy ads in the beginning of my business. I did buy a fancy website, which I didn't need to do. And I think a lot of people do that initially.
Oh,
Just
yes.
yeah. So I did that. And then I ended up having to redo the copy and everything. So it was like, a whole process. But anyways, that's part of it. Then how are you going to deliver the messaging to this market in a way that's compelling to them? So good copy and good marketing skills. And then how do you convert? So what's going to be your sales process? You got to set something up for that. So for me, it was discovery calls, and it still is to a degree, but I also, have a webinar and email funnel and all that kind of stuff. And then what's the transformation you want to provide, and making sure your program's good, and maybe running like a beta program or something like that initially, where I do not think you need to do it for free. I never worked for free as far as like my programs. Of course, I gave a lot of free content and podcasts and all that stuff, but even initially starting out, you guys got to know your worth and know that you can deliver value, and also know that when they pay you, they're going to show up better and get better results anyways, and you're going to get better testimonials. So did that. And then the time management piece was a big thing for me too initially. Like, I think I really had to, everything you're learning for the first time, there's a huge learning curve, as you know. And so I think giving yourself grace for that in the beginning, like the first time I do an email funnel, it's probably going to take me like 2 months to set up, because it is I'm learning the tech, I'm learning all these things. But then once you get the hang of it, you get a better sense of how long things actually take you, and what are the client generating activities, and what are the best use of your time for getting traffic, like what are the best traffic sources for you. All that stuff becomes more clear, but initially you are in that, what we call just like the messy beginnings, and it is a learning curve, and you just have to give yourself so much grace for that.
Yeah, totally. When I started my business, everything started moving so fast, and I hadn't set up those email funnels or really just like the back end of my business. And so, I tell people this because there was a month where I had to like cut down on my clients, really like not do a lot of marketing and set up those email funnels, which
Mhm.
hurt me temporarily with income, but then in the long run was better, having all of that. And so if you can set that all up from the beginning, it's so much better. But like you're saying, sometimes as you grow with your business, you do have to change some of your messaging and you might
Mhm.
change your whole business vision. And so really once you know what you want to do, that's when all the magic can happen.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that about the short term. Like initially in my business, I was always doing the things that produce the results the quickest because you're always in that mode in the beginning. Like I got to bring in cash flow, I got to get clients. And now I'm in a place where I want to start streamlining some more things and setting up some more longer term things in my business. And it's so ingrained in me to be, the marketing and sales person in front of everybody and doing all that stuff and to take time to do that patience process in the
Hmm.
background that I know long term is going to serve me. It feels so strange to me because I'm just so used to always having that like initial entrepreneur energy where you're like, oh, I gotta get out there, all that stuff. And I have to keep reminding myself, probably like you did, that like patience is my project right now. And
Hmm.
I just had a launch month and it was great. But the months leading up to that, I was like doing all these things. I was updating my webinar and changing things. And I was so impatient sometimes in that process because I was like, oh, I just want to get this out there, but I knew I had to step back and fix a couple things and update a couple things. And I just kept repeating, you know what, patience is my project right now. Be patient.
Absolutely. Do you want to start growing your business rapidly in a really fun way? Do you want to increase your visibility and profits? I have just the thing for you. My course, Great Guesting: How to Grow Your Business Through Being a Podcast Guest, is now available, and it's guaranteed to get you on podcasts. Do you want to connect with more clients, share your story, make stronger connections, and grow your audience? But do you find that you're second guessing yourself, are indecisive on a topic because you're into so many things, and thinking, is this even possible? You'll love this step-by-step guide on how to be a podcast guest. We go over 6 lessons that are knowing your story, narrowing down the topic, finding podcasts to be on, setting up your audio, preparing to record, and of course, marketing, because that's what I'm all about. Being a guest can be fun, but if you don't have a plan to go with it, you're really just spending the hour talking. You're not moving your business forward, and that's exactly what this course is designed to teach you. You can find this course on my website at Espresso Podcast Production, and I guarantee you that you will be a guest on podcasts in no time. I saw this on your website too. When you first started out, you were having a lot of low ticket offers. And then, as you're saying, like when people invest, they give you better testimonials, they see more results. But I think switching from, having a lot of low ticket clients to having just a few or just like a handful of high ticket clients, that definitely is a mindset shift. And there's a ton of imposter syndrome that comes with that. Can you
Yeah.
talk to us about like how you made that shift between low ticket to high ticket?
Yeah. So I think initially when I first started out, I had, and just like many of my clients when they're first starting out, they think, well, if I can't even sell it at the low ticket price, who's going to pay high ticket? And the
Mm,
truth is, price is price and it's subjective, and there will be people who will never buy at a high ticket price and people who will never buy at a low ticket price no matter which way you spin it. I think it's so much easier to sell high ticket because A, you need a smaller audience and less volume. B, you're able to really specialize and get your clients great results most likely because you're not scrambled and serving, needing 50 new clients a month to
right.
keep your lights on, right? And C, it's you can build a transformational program with that really serves and delivers, and you have more to reinvest back to helping your clients. So it's just overall way better. And so I think the key is to know if you are making your offer about you and about the time you spend with your clients, it's going to be really hard to go high ticket because you're not seeing, of course, you're not going to have the confidence about it because you're seeing it as, well, me and my time. And, I feel guilty for charging too much or whatever. And I don't see it that way. I see it as I'm offering and selling a transformational program and results that for years to come are going to serve them. And a entity, a framework, a process that works. I'm not selling me and my time and myself, because that of course would feel bad, because none of us like to talk about ourselves. And I mean, I'm assuming, right? But I think a lot of us struggle with that. But when you see it as a separate entity than you, that you've created, that's created results for people, that's a process that takes them through something and makes it so much easier and helps them achieve a dream outcome, that is high ticket value. That is worth high ticket. So it's not to say that you need to eliminate low ticket in your business. I think you could have like a descending model, but I do recommend starting and focusing on like one main high ticket offer, and watch what happens to your business, and watch the quality of leads you attract, and watch, the kinds of commitment that your clients now have. And that's going to be a huge change. And not only that, it helps your confidence, because you're like, okay, dang, I got to show up now. The stakes are high. I better deliver. And you become better in the process too.
Totally. I 100% agree with that. And I think that's really important for entrepreneurs to realize, where your time is worth a lot, but you shouldn't put all of your clients in positions where they need your time 100% of the time. I definitely had that, where I had some clients who thought everything was an emergency or needed things quickly. And I'm like, I don't have time for this. I don't want to do this. This
Yeah.
isn't why I started my business. And so I think that's a great point. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was the feeling of not being enough, when you might be, like you're saying, you had an incredible launch. You were working up all these months to put together your webinar, your launch, all of these things. But sometimes when it's kind of like that down period, we can have those feelings like, why am I not super busy right now? Why am I not why am I not hustling? And I know this is something that you kind of talk to your clients about. So what advice do you have when we start feeling like, oh, I'm not hustling, I'm not overwhelmed? What's wrong?
Yeah. Well, I think there's two parts to this question. Most of my clients are overwhelmed by all the things that they're not actually getting anything accomplished, because they're in information overload and there's so many different ways they can grow their business. And they feel that analysis paralysis because they feel what you said, I'm not enough. So there's that. But then there's also like, oh, I'm not doing enough, as you were saying. So I think the key when you feel that way, first of all, is you have to identify and catch how you're talking about yourself. So I had a client who was referring to herself as a newbie all the time. Like, I'm just a newbie, who would want to really work with me, etc. And she was not a newbie. She had been certified for like a couple years in her coaching. She had been helping like a couple dozen people each time she ran a reset. She was not a newbie. So I was like, wait, why do you keep saying that? You need to transition out of that. You're not new anymore. Wake up, right? And just the way you see yourself, if you don't see yourself as an entrepreneur and you don't see yourself as a high ticket service provider and you don't see yourself as someone who delivers and figures it out, it's going to be really hard for your actions to match up with that. So we need to change how you see yourself. Now, I don't think you need to jump to, I'm so amazing, I'm the best, because you probably don't believe that yet. But what you can ask yourself is, who am I to help these people? So normally people say, who am I to help these people? But no, answer, who am I to help these people? Well, I've gone through this, this, and this. I've helped people do this, this, and this. I've been featured in this, this, and this. Even if you haven't been featured in anything, there's probably some reasons why you're capable of helping these people, right? And some characteristics about yourself that you can rely on that are positive and that will pull through for you. So that's the first thing, is identify, why are you enough? Why are you the person to help somebody? And the other piece is, when you're not feeling enough, you have to ask yourself, well, what if I was feeling enough? What would that look like? And write that down, because you have a preconceived message in your head about what is enough. And you might, when you write it down, you might decide like, oh yeah, okay, so I do want to do more X, Y, and Z, or I do want to have some more test clients or whatever. And that's fine. But what you might also realize when you write this down is your ideas are super silly. Like, you're like, being enough means I work 7 days a week and I don't take a break to go to the bathroom and I, whatever. Like you probably have some idea of what enough is that's unattainable. And you might want to look at that and be like, is this really real? Is this what enough is? Why do I think this? Who taught me this? Who told me this? What else could it be true? What do I want to believe about this? You got to ask yourself that. And you got to define a new criteria for enough that you can meet for now, and then keep leveling it up, etc. And really, at the end of the day, you are already 100% worthy and enough. This is all just a game and bonus and an experiment. And I like to see it all as like, how can I have fun with this? How can I serve? How can I contribute? How can I make the most out of my time here on earth? And I'm more like, I'm already enough. Now what type of thing? So maybe approaching it differently. And the last thing I'll say about that, when you write down your list of like, what is enough? You either have to change the belief, as we talked about, come up with a strategy to address the concern you have, or decide that it's silly and you want to change your description.
Yeah, that's incredible. Really like breaking it down. I've never really thought of it like that. And that is so important. Like, I've been, I think all entrepreneurs have been through times where they're like, I am just not feeling like I'm doing everything I could, but we all need to take breaks. Like we all have to take breaks and then just like give ourselves grace in certain periods of business. And so I love that. That's a great mindset piece of advice.
Yeah. And can I add something to that? Because I think if you write down a list of like, these are all the things I think I should be doing, the truth is what we make all that mean about ourselves is something really dramatic and we turn it into mental drama. But really all it is it's a strategy challenge. And so it's like, if you're like, oh, I should be, posting more, I should be having more lead generation, I should be doing blah, blah, blah. It doesn't mean anything about your morals or about you as a person or that you're a failure or a loser or not doing enough. It's more like, let's look at that and let's turn it into either a solution, like let's outsource something, or let's, be okay with this chapter not focusing on that. And that's going to be reviewed in Q4, or like, let's deal with it one at a time from a data and a solutions oriented standpoint, not make it mean like, oh my God, I'm so XYZ.
Totally. No, I love that. And thank you for clarifying that, because sometimes we can look at things and be like, I have to do all this right now, but definitely is important to take it one piece at a time. Now, Hailey, I know you help health coaches and life coaches, and you have a podcast actually for just that. I'd love to, because I'm a podcast producer, so I love interviewing other podcasters about how they use their podcast really to bring in leads or bring in marketing to their business. Do you do anything fun and unique that you'd love to share that, maybe someone could incorporate in their podcast?
Yeah, I love this question. I actually just did a presentation about how to get clients from your podcast. And it's really, so what I do on my show, Health Coach Nation, is a couple things. One, you got to play the long game with the podcast. So this is not fun and exciting and sexy at all, but just stay in the game and you're going to be ahead of so many podcasters. Because as you know, that stat, there's like some kind of statistics where it's like most podcasters don't make it past episode 9 or something, like
right. Yeah.
crazy. So that's part of it. But number 2, I like to actually do more like some hot seat coaching sometimes on my podcast. So I'll bring in somebody who wants to get coached so that people can, a tip is to show rather than just tell what you do sometimes. So a lot of times we talk about what we do, but in a podcast, sometimes I do a hot seat coaching and then people can actually experience it or see it, that kind of thing. The other thing that you can do that's cool is make sure that you're always mentioning, I know it feels weird, but always mentioning your offer in a like your own podcast ad. So rather than like advertising other people's stuff on your podcast, which you can do if you want, but you should have your own ad on your own podcast, like sponsored by my own program, right? And I think sometimes we miss that because we're just so focused on, oh, they already know or whatever. So that's a big thing. One thing I want to do is a giveaway where like if people share their favorite episode on social media and tag me, they'll be entered to win something. So that's something I'm probably going to do soon if like they are a listener and that kind of thing. One time I had a contest to be on the podcast and that was really fun. So people would share the podcast and then I would select somebody and that was pretty cool. So, and then the last thing is the guests make it fun too, connecting with new people and getting to expand your network. And a lot of times I end up doing more fun partnerships with my podcast guests, or we start referring each other to each other, or, I'll be like, hey, do you know somebody who does Facebook ads that I can reach out to? Like, it's just a fun way to connect with other business owners.
I love that. I've coached some of my clients on the giveaways, but for podcast reviews. So I help a lot of people launch their shows. And one of the most important things when you launch is getting those reviews. And so that's also another great way to, get some more visibility. And so thank you for sharing those. I absolutely love all those tips. And I think podcasting is just so incredible for business. And it's really a marketing tool that a lot of people overlook.
Yeah, for sure. And it is a long-term game. Like, I've had my podcast for a couple of years now, and
Mhm.
now I'm seeing, oh my gosh, these people listen to my podcast, they sign up for coaching. And it's cool because they trust you so much more because you're in their ear and you're literally like building a relationship with them with your
Yeah,
podcast. So it's like I know when those leads come in, they're quality and they like get it, compared to sometimes on social media, we're so distracted and the kind of leads we attract aren't as like serious, that kind of thing. So I agree, like it's the gift that keeps giving, and the longer it sits out there, the more you're going to reap the ROI from it.
absolutely. Because they already trust you because they know you. They've listened to you for hours on end. And so I love that. So, Hailey, to start wrapping up this episode, I would love it if you could share 3 actionable steps that the audience can start with today to, move the needle in their business or even start their business. What do you
Yeah,
want to challenge the audience with?
totally. Well, thank you for this question. And I think the first thing is I do have an overwhelm masterclass that I would encourage them to do, and a cheat sheet. And it takes you through doing a big brain dump of all the things on your mind about your business right now. So what you think you need to do, ideas you have, obligations that are keeping you from getting to spend the time you want on your business. And so it takes you through a process to not let those things hold you back anymore, and not, let overwhelm run the show. Because I see so many business owners doing that. So that's at HaileyRowe.com/ overwhelm hyphen class. And then the second thing I would do is start to decide how long things are going to take you, as opposed to letting things decide how long they're going to take you. So one thing I did early on, I still do it to this day because it keeps me accountable, is I time myself. Like, I'm timing right now, I'm on a podcast interview. So the end of week, I get a summary and I'm able to see, oh, wow, here's how long this took. Here's how long this took. And I can start to be like, when I'm time batching, actually accurately plan my day, number one. And number two, though, be like, wow, I spent so much time on content creation. Why? Oh, right. Because I was scrolling half the time and I got distracted, or I was editing a reel and I got too into it and I need to stop doing that. Right. So it helps you catch yourself and it would be like, I could outsource this. Right. And then the third thing I would say is manage both your mind and how many offers you're making. So what I mean by that is, if you're catching yourself having limiting beliefs or speaking about yourself in a way that's not aligned with the entrepreneur you want to be and the income level you want to be making and all that stuff, catch that stuff. And number two, ask yourself or determine what your key metrics are, like, and make sure you're in a position where you're making either pre-offers. I call them like the offer before the offer. In other words, a free guide that you have that you're driving traffic to your email list, or a free webinar or something like that. And real offers. How many, sales offers are you making per week? And you got to get people who are warm enough to be able to do that. But if you're not tracking that, or you're never in a position to be making pre-offers or making offers, you got to address that. That's huge.
Yeah, those are great tips. I'm definitely going to link your cheat sheet and masterclass in the show notes. And so everyone can go check out that. Hailey, where can people come and find you and connect with you? And if they are in the health and life coaching industry, how can they work with you?
Yeah, thank you. So I have the Health Coach Nation podcast and Facebook group. You're welcome to join if you're any type of coach or service provider in that group. I also have HaileyRowe.com. That's my general website. And then I'm on Instagram at Hailey_Rowe. It's HAILEY_ROWE. And I would love to hear from your listeners, any takeaways they had that they came from your show, and happy to say hello.
Awesome. Well, that will all be in the show notes. I have absolutely loved this conversation. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Employee to Boss podcast. If you made it to the end of this episode, I hope that you implement the actionable steps from this week's experts so you can get started with your business today. Please rate, review, and subscribe to the Employee to Boss podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. It helps more than you could ever imagine. Remember, a little progress each day leads to big results. We come out with a new episode every Tuesday. To access our show notes, transcripts, and courses, please check out espressopodcastproduction.com.